Divya, are you able to see my screen, right?
Yes, Mahesh.
Yeah, I started recording. So here what we
Yeah.
are doing is we are identifying that search input, and now we
Sorry, Mahesh, one second.
yeah
I'm leaving the meeting.
yeah sure.
Sorry. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Divya.
Bye bye.
So here I identified that search input field and I wanted to scroll till that element. So this is a method, JavaScript executor method, where it helps you to perform scrolling operations on a web page. Like this is the syntax for that. So we have to assign the driver to the JavaScript executor method and you can perform execute script action. So this is a syntax that you have to remember. So here arguments of 0 is nothing but the element, which element that you are passing here, search input.
Yeah.
So this is the element, arguments of 0 means since it is having only one argument and the index of this argument is 0 and we are performing a scroll into view operation like
Yeah.
so we are trying to scroll till that element is viewable. Understood, right? This line of code.
Yeah. Yes, Mahesh. Yeah. Got it.
Okay, so after that we will give some wait time just to see whether scrolling operation is working or not. I'll give some 2000 millisecond to 2 seconds. And then
Okay.
I already have input field, right? I don't have to find that element again. So I can directly use this. Like here already we have private find element, this code, right? And
Yes.
we are storing that particular return type in a search input field. So you can copy that search input and replace that code here.
Okay.
Okay. So this is
Yeah.
reusability. Means you don't have to give like a button to the WebDriver object because we already identified that element locator and store that element. So otherwise, if you don't declare this variable, you have to you have to write the same code 3 times. Here you have to write, here you have to write, and here you have to write.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to run it. See, this time it
Oh,
scrolls.
it's got scrolled. Yeah.
Scroll right, but still it is failed due to some other
But
reason.
still it is failed. Yeah.
Element still not interactable.
Not interactable.
Why, why why it is not interactable? Maybe we can try. First of all, we'll try to click on that, and then we'll try to send. Okay,
Okay.
I'm trying to
Click.
perform click operation, and then normally we'll click on that and then perform send case operation. Right? We'll do that once.
Set this option. Yes. Yeah.
Maybe I'm suspecting that is the reason. We'll see.
Ye- Yeah. Okay. Mahesh.
Scrolling is working fine.
Yeah. Scrolling is working.
Yeah, this time it clicks on it as well.
It clicks. Yeah. Search bar. It clicked on search bar.
Yeah.
But still it is showing error.
We'll try to run in debug mode. See whether this is clicked. It is clicked on here.
What is clicked?
Recheck again whether this is having the same ID.
Identifier.
Still it is having ID as search only.
Search. Yes.
We'll try to evaluate. Search input dot send this.
Yes. Search. Selena.
Not interactable. Why it is not interactable?
There is something error showing right
Yeah,
now.
same element not interactable exception.
Yes.
Is unable to interact. Okay. There are two different IDs. Okay.
That is for which element we don't know right now. It's like
For yeah, so
search.
this is the problem. See, whenever the developers uses ID, they should not use the same ID somewhere else. Like for
Okay,
example,
so we find two IDs here.
yeah, that's the reason it is unable to perform action. So in this case, what we can do is instead of using ID, we can directly use input XPath. We'll try
We
to
can write XPath here.
yeah. So what I'll do
Yeah,
is
yeah.
I'll try to frame an XPath for this input field. Input
Okay.
and rate ID is equals to search. Sorry, at the rate, right? Yeah.
Oh, one is.
So developers made a mistake, but that is causing our problem. Causing a
Yeah,
problem to us. I'll replace this with XPath.
XPath. Yeah.
Stop it, and I'll try to run it on. Yeah, this time it
Yeah.
also
Now
typed.
it.
So now
Yes,
you
type it.
understood the issue, right? So earlier
Yeah.
what is happening is it is trying to perform set keys operation on a form input, not the input field.
Input. So only search field. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason it is
So
throwing an
it
exception.
worked on first option, right, Mahesh?
So click will perform. I mean, click action can perform on uh, forms. Like forms are. I mean, on the forms we can perform click action, but on forms we cannot perform send keys operation, right? That's the reason. Till
Yeah.
this it
Okay.
works. I mean, on forms we can click, but we cannot perform send keys operation.
Okay.
So that's the reason. Still this, even if you use farm as your web element, it works.
Okay.
So these kind of challenges will come when you really practice more and more.
Okay.
And then what we wanted to discuss today, and we have covered Windows and iframes. Okay. then- Yeah. So in TestNG is a framework. So in that framework, we have different attributes it supports. TestNG demo. So we have learned earlier there are different annotations, right? Like at the rate before, at the rate after, and at the rate test. So these are all
Yes.
the annotations that TestNG supports. But we also have something called attributes. So for example, if you have some 1,000 test cases in your test suite, and you wanted to identify or you wanted to run those test cases in a sequential manner. Like I wanted to execute, for example, I have 1,000 test cases, but I wanted to segregate those test cases. I mean, priority, like most critical scenarios that I wanted to execute first. So I have to give a high priority to those test
Okay.
cases, right? So that they will execute in a, I mean, priority manner. Like if I give
Second.
priority 0, those test cases will execute first. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'll give you an example here. Attributes. So these are all the different attributes like description, timeout, priority, depends on method, enable, and groups. So now we are discussing about this attribute, priority. So priority is a attribute, and how we will write the attribute as priority equal to, it can range from negative values to the positive values. So for example,
Okay.
if you give -10 to one test case and 0 to one test case and 10 to other test case. So the first test case will be whatever the test that is given as priority -10, that test case will execute first. Okay.
Okay.
So here I have, for example, I have three test cases: test orange, test mango, and test apple. So what I'm
Okay.
doing is I'm giving -8 to one test case and +8 to one test case, and I'll give you another priority. I mean priority as 0 to this test case. So what will happen is the first test case is test orange will get executed first, and then apple will get executed, and then so I'll just run quickly. See, if you see which test method
Yeah.
is executed, the
First orange
orange
was
one is the my
executed.
negative one, and then the zeroth one, apple one is having priority 0, and mango is having plus. So this is the
Plus.
sequence. So in your, for example, in your regression test suite, you have some 100 test cases, and out of 100, you wanted to execute some more critical scenarios. Let's say 10 scenarios are most critical. First, you have to complete execution of those test cases. So you have to give a priority as 0, or usually in real time, we will not use negative as a priority. Usually, we'll give
Okay.
priority as 0. So zeroth, whatever the test cases that has priority 0 will gets executed first. So
So
that
for
is,
here, -8 you have used, right, Mahesh?
yeah,
So
yeah,
this is for practice, you have like a given
yeah,
negative
yeah,
value, right?
yeah. For just for your example purpose, for in case you have some
Okay.
test case, you have given negative values as well. So in that case, in that case, whatever the test case that you have given priority with the negative value, that will get executed. But in general, in real time, we will just use the positive numbers
Positive values.
starting from 0.
Okay.
In case by mistake, if you just give negative symbol before the value, then at that time you might have confused why, even though I give 8 for that particular test case, but it still gets executed your first, because you given
Yeah.
a negative value that for that.
Negative
So
value. Okay.
that is the use of priority attribute. So this is done. And description is nothing but we wanted to give some description to this particular test case. So what is the
Yes.
advantage of using this description is when you create test reports for your regression to test suite, instead of seeing the test method names. For example, here we are seeing test method names, but in our test report we wanted to uh, give a clear description like what exactly this test case is doing, right? So while
Yes.
creating test reports, it is very helpful. So by reading the description of this particular test case, it will show you in your test reports. So when we discussing about test report, I'll show you this. But right now, ignore about the description part. and then timeout. So for example, I have a test case. So usually the test case will gets executed for, let's say the test execution is completed within 1 minute. But for some reason, for example, let's say the application or some particular uh, button is button is not functional. We have not it is not functional. We have to give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, timeout is one of the example where, for example, my test case usually gets completed in some, let's say it will complete within a 1 minute. But for some reason, it is still waiting for web application is not responsive, and it's still taking some time, like let's say 5 minutes. The execution time is taking more time, like it is still waiting for an element to be clickable or waiting for an element to be visible on the web page for a indefinite time. So I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait my application to be I mean, my execution to be wait for that much time. I wanted to complete my test execution within a stipulated time. For example, if my test case
Okay.
execution is taking more than 5 seconds, I wanted to fail that test case. So in that case, this timeout attribute is very useful. For example, usually your test case will completed within 1 minute, but for some reason it is waiting for indefinite time. But if it is
Okay.
taking more than 60 minutes,
More
60
than 1 minute.
seconds,
Okay.
yeah, more than 1 minute, I wanted to fail it.
Oh, so the timeout will be done at that
Timeout
time.
is, yeah, timeout is the attribute. For example, I'll give
Okay.
you a test. I'll give you an example so that you will
Okay.
understand it better. So test is one method, public test timeout attribute. So for this attribute, for example, I'm giving a timeout value as 5 seconds. 5 seconds is nothing but 5000 milliseconds, right?
Yes.
Compatible times should be long. Okay. Yeah. So this test case will get timeout if the execution time is more than 5 seconds. So what I'll do is I'll wait for some 8 seconds using thread.sleep method.
Yes.
So here what is happening is I wanted to fail my test case if it takes more than 5 seconds,
Yeah.
right? So I'll just
Yes.
simply execute. So this test case should fail because it is taking more than 5 seconds.
Yeah.
See, this got
Yeah.
failed.
Got failed.
And if you see the exception, thread timeout exception, so
Yes.
what it is saying, this particular
Will
test
finish
case,
within
it
timeout.
timeout of 5000 seconds.
5,000.
So that is the use of this.
Okay. So
In real
if
time
we give
scenario,
thread.sleep at 5,000 seconds, then it will pass, right, Mahesh?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Even if you give 4, it will pass.
It will pass. Okay.
fast.
Yeah, record fast.
So that is the advantage of using timeout. And description we have done, priority done, and depends on is a one method. So I'll give you a
Okay.
real time scenario where we will use this attribute. So for example, mm, let me go to the application once. So this is our practice application, and I have a sign in functionality. So I'll click on sign in button. Test at email.com, I think.
Yeah.
ABC, ABC. So this is one example scenario where, for example, I wanted to click on profile icon. So before that,
Okay.
I have to perform login action, and it should be successful, right? If the login operation is not successful, there is no point of running a test case which will verify whether this profile icon is displayed, because
Yes.
login test case itself is failed. Then how there is no use of running this particular test case. So
Yeah.
in that
Exactly.
right, in that particular scenario, we will use this attribute called depends on method. For example,
Okay.
I'm not writing the entire code, and I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
At the test public void test login. So this test will with this test will verify login functionality. Verify login functionality. And then I'll write one more test case. That test case, what it does is, so that test case will verify the profile icon after user is logged in.
Yes.
Test, test profile
Perfect.
icon after user is logged in. So, so this particular method, test login method, yeah, is having a login functionality code. And after that the test execution is completed, then only if this particular test outcome is successful, then only I wanted to perform this test.
Yes.
So in that case, what we have to use is depends on method.
Depends on it.
The method name. What is the method name? Login.
Yeah.
Right. So intentionally, I'll try to I'll just remove all other test cases, or I'll just comment this.
Comment it. Yes.
So I commented all above the test cases. Now I only have, sorry, what I'm doing here is I'm intentionally failing this test case. So how we can intentionally fail this particular test is using asset method. Asset dot asset true. So we are expecting the inside condition to be returned true, but if I directly pass false here, what happens is this test case will fail. So when this
Yes.
particular test case will fail, this test case will not get executed. So for example, I'll just run the test pass directly. See here, should show ignored as well. So since this particular test case is failed, we are expecting true, but the outcome is false. That's the reason test login functionality is failed. So there's no point of running this because this method test execution depends on the outcome of this test login execution. That's the reason if you see this particular test is ignored,
Yeah.
right? If you, for example, if you pass this particular test, so in order to pass this test case, I am just giving true here.
True here. Okay.
So in this case, if this particular test case will gets passed. Now this particular test should execute.
Yes. We can view the profile.
Yeah. See, since this test
Yes.
case is passed, now this execution test is also gets executed. So
Yes.
this is the scenario. Like I have given you a real-time example. So maybe in your as a assignment, you can do this. Like you can create a new file, and you can add these two methods. But inside that, you have to write a code. Like you have to perform. What you have to do is, I'm just signing out. So when you have to just launch this particular URL and click on sign in
Okay.
button. So after you click in, so here you have to type this tested@email.com as your email ID and password as abcabc and click on
Yeah.
login button. So after login button, you will see the profile icon, right? So
Yes.
till login functionality, write your code under test login method.
Okay.
So in this method, what you have to do is you have to do the verification for profile icon.
Yeah. So we can write this test like download test.
Yeah.
Like
So
that. Okay.
as a assignment, maybe you can take this as your assignment task and try to perform this using the depends on method attribute. So what should
Sure.
happen is one scenario where you will pass some incorrect login details. So in that case, this test case will not execute. And in a
Yes.
second run, what you have to do is you have to give valid credentials. And at that time, this test case should execute, and based on the condition that you specified in in this test method, it should pass or fail based on your verification.
Yes, Mahesh. Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
so
Yeah.
this is one of your assignment. And then there is one more attribute called enabled. So enabled is nothing but nothing. It's simple. For example, I have given enabled tag as true. This test case will execute, and just forget about this. Depends on if I give it as false, it will not execute at all. Just to like for example, you are writing some test cases, and there are some successful scenarios you already scripted, and your test scripting is completed. So you will give enabled is equals to true. I mean, whenever you are trying to execute your regression test suite, you will give enabled equal to true. That means those test case scripting is completed. We can make use of those test cases for our regression testing. Whereas when you will give enabled equal to false means this particular test script development is still in progress. It is not yet completed. So you can pass, you
Okay.
can give this enabled equal to false. That means your total, I mean, your scripting is not yet completed. So you wanted to ignore your test execution. I mean, this particular test should not execute. So I'll just try show you. Not like this. I'll just I'll run the entire class. So in this case, what happens is whatever the test that has enabled equal to true, only that test case gets executed. And I'll just change it to true. At this time, it will execute both the test cases.
Both. Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I have only executed one test case. Let me run this. Both executed. So that is
Yes,
the
both
advantage
exist.
of this enabled tag. And there is one more attribute called groups. So groups is uh, when we have to use groups is I have some test cases. For example, in real time scenario, you have 100 test cases. Out of 100, some 10 test cases are for smoke testing, and some 10 test cases are for maybe you can instead of that you can group the test cases based on the functionality. Like, so some 10 scenarios are related to login functionality, and some 10 scenarios are related to registration functionality in your application. So you will give these groups as one of the attribute to your test case. For example, group is equals to login. Group login pass group login is I didn't remember the exact syntax. Let me check in Google. TestNG groups. This is the syntax. Okay. They have given a similar. Maybe I copied it, right?
Yeah. Creation different.
Okay. So those groups are created in TestNG XML. No. Maybe I'll search for that, but I'm giving you where we have to. I'm giving you an example where we can use these groups. Okay.
Okay.
So I have some 10 test cases, and I wanted to group those test cases based on the functionality it is testing. And let's assume this test case is related to registration functionality. So this is the use of groups. For example, I have 100 test cases and I want to group some 10 login scenarios under login group and some 10 registration scenarios under registration
Registration
group.
group.
And based on this, we can execute with the help of TestNG.xml. So here we have to pass the group name while executing our test cases. So maybe once we have some 10 or 20 test cases in our example, I'll show you that
Okay.
groups example. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Mahesh.
Yeah. So I'll upload these recordings in YouTube, and don't forget to practice the scenario of this test and attributes as well as the iframe example that we have learned today.
Yeah, sure, Mahesh. Can you send this link to Git, Mahesh?
Yeah, I'll upload all this code into Git and the
Okay.
same same Git repository. Maybe I'll push the changes. So
Okay.
I don't have any commits, right? So in
Yeah.
order to commit, you can directly click commit here.
Commit. Okay.
So these are the different 4 files I have modified today.
Yeah.
Code updates.
Yeah. Mahesh, 1 second, Mahesh.
Yeah, sure. No. Commit anyway and push. Code updates. Yeah. Hello, Divya.
Yeah, sorry, Mahesh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay, no problem. So I have committed my changes into this branch. So I shared the URL as well. You can
I'll
see
go
the,
through it and I will do it. Yeah.
yeah, sure. And I'll also upload today's sessions in YouTube. Okay.
Okay, Mahesh, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll inform the same to Pavan also. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Okay, Mahesh. Yeah, you too, Mahesh. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.